the university was still getting a request, weekly or monthly, from someone, some far-flung place in the world, wanting from Fitzpatrick a specimen of a seed or a leaf of a plant which had been extinct, some of them for hundreds and hundreds, or if not 1,000 years. The only known specimens in the world were in this area. He said, now, we'll just have to tell them to go on. So, they're done. Look at my notes. What else could there be more? Stout knew Fitzpatrick. He knew that the library was known all around the world. And he also knew that the university had missed the chance to get into the library. But he contacted then Francis Glenn in Kansas City and found out that there were a goodly number of science books left. There were duplicates and stuff that Glenn had kept and was selling off that hadn't gone to the University of Kansas. So Stout got permission to come down and look at the books that were left. And he went, and with Glenn went first, he said, well, first go to my house and I'll show you the one book I have for which I will get $1 million. This is in 1950s, 52, 53, 54, somewhere in there in Stout Family. There were no books worth much more than 100. You could buy a first folio for $1,000. An Audubon elephant folio for $1,000. So to think that he thought a book was $1 million, that was, frankly, probably impossible. But at any rate, that's what he said. Here's a book for which I'll get $1 million. And he took him into the vault that he had in his home. And Professor Stout said, what he told me it was, and I did not look at it to know, it was a diary. He said it is Joseph Smith's diary, his handwritten diary, in which he explains how he falsified the religion, invented the tablets, hired somebody to write the language, and he said, for this, I will get $1 million. Well, there's an awful lot of anti-Mormon books out there. About as many anti-Mormon books as there are Mormon books. And Stout didn't really give it any credence at all and look at it. You know, how do you know? What is it? Just, it's not, he wasn't interested in that anyway. What he was interested in, the fact, for example, there were Newton's Principia Mathematica. There were about a dozen copies of Newton's Principia Mathematica. At that point in time, they were worth about $50,000 apiece. A dozen of them. So he came back to Lincoln and he asked Perry Branch, who was setting up the University of Nebraska Foundation, to quit like a button, because Glenn tells him that he will take $51,000 for all of the science books that are left. And so he says to Perry Branch, you know, get a letter out. We just need to raise $51,000. And a sample of Perry Branch's letter is in the archives of the University of Nebraska. He writes around and he tries, he gets a few $1,000s. He doesn't, and it's obvious that he nor anybody else probably around here knew how to ask for money for old books. It's just not very glamorous. So it just got forgotten. It didn't get there. Today, the Principia Mathematica, the first editions go for around $500,000. The second editions for around $32,000. That's just one title that they could have gotten. And Stout knew that if they could get them, they could keep a couple of the books for the library, sell off the rest, and make a nice profit. But they didn't. The Linnaeum items, some of them in the university cabinet, we know that. He also asked Chancellor Gustafson to look at the books, consider buying the remainders, and Gustafson, later it was reprinted in the obituary in the Lincoln paper, Lincoln Star. Gustafson and the head librarian at that time said they were uninterested in old books. They needed books that were current books. And this is a justifiable argument, by the way. The students and the faculty aren't interested in rare and collectible books. They want the cutting edge of science. And he said, we had money for bread, but not for cake. That's his quote. I'm sure he had time to think about that before he said it. But it shows how short-sighted one can be. Money was not available. The other thing that then at this point, Stout thinks, well, if I'm not going to get it from the University Foundation, what I need to do is I need to find somebody myself who can get into his pocket, whip out his checkbook, and write a check for $51,000. And son of a gun, Stout knew just exactly the right person. His name was Professor Schramm State Park. Okay, and he owned farms all over Schramm. And Schramm was a professor at the University Ag campus, and he lived in the YMCA, so he wasn't well known for just losing money in the back and so forth. So Stout and his wife went over to the YMCA, picked up Schramm, took him down to Kansas City to see the books. They looked at the books, and he said, as Schramm looked at the books, he said he could see several times that he was just on the verge of reaching for that checkbook, but he never did. He wouldn't buy it. He wasn't interested. So they didn't get them again, and everything is going on. Stout said, when I retired, one of the things I wanted to do was, he said, I suddenly realized that, oh, what could there have been in that Joseph Smith dagger? So he realized that it had been sold, but for how much we don't know, certainly $5,000. Probably, if he got $20,000 for it, it'd be a princely sum of money or something like that. And it went back to either Yale or Princeton, I forget. And that university printed several copies. I think they printed, I got the something. I think they printed 100 copies. All of the major research libraries in the United States got 1,000 copies. So there was the original and 1,000 reprints. And they scattered them all over university libraries, research libraries all over the United States. In fact, the card catalog, there was one in the University of Nebraska's library. So Scott said, I'm just for fun, I'm going to now go in retirement and I'm going to read that book and see if there's anything. Or they went down to the University of Nebraska library, son of a gun, guess what? It was missing. So that's easy. Interlibrary alone, 1,001 copies. 1,001 copies. Every single one of them was missing. Every single one. Now we'll never know. Who knows? We don't know. We do know that there were factions within the Mormon Church who were buying these anti-Mormon books and destroying them. The Mormon Church, to their credit, did not do that. They acquired the anti-Mormon books and they stored them away. They kept them. They did not destroy them. And they didn't have them. Some, who knows? Well, let's see. There was a copy of Hooke's Micrographia, 1667, which is the first book to describe the use of the microscope. He had given